Hello everyone, it is currently Friday evening and I am dog sitting, or pet sitting really, for a couple of dear friends who have one dog and two cats, and I am currently living my best life. It has been such a good day. I have been taking things a little bit slow today and just, sleeping in, having a really wonderful quiet time from Titus chapter 3 and 1 Corinthians chapter 14. And won't really dive into all of that because the point of this whole video is going to be to show you like kind of a vlog from August into September, and also to talk about WriterCon, which I went to last weekend in Oklahoma City. WriterCon is kind of obvious, it's kind of like in the name itself. It is a writers conference for authors, aspiring authors, for editors and publishers and agents, from all over the globe, but it's set in Oklahoma City, and it is hosted by William and Laura Bernhardt. They are both authors. They are both wonderful and friendly and just so kind. They've been so kind to me. Last year was my very first year to go. It's always on Labor Day weekend. Last year was at, I think it's called the Skirvin Hotel, and it was absolutely gorgeous. I had such a wonderful time last year being able to go, and you get the opportunity at the Writers Conference to put yourself out there. Yes, you get to go to classes that other authors or other agents are teaching, and you get to learn, you get to absorb, hey, what writing style has worked for them? What tips do they have for you to help you get your book published, or help you write faster, or help you think more creatively, or help you edit your novel? All of that is there. And it's so wonderful. But I also had the opportunity last year to pitch my books, both my Christian fantasy and my Bible study devotional. Every day after the conference was over, they gave you ample opportunity, multiple times, to essentially to pitch how many ever times you wanted to pitch. And I had the opportunity to do that, and that is how I met the publisher that is publishing my books today, Callie Mentler-Smith, who owns Clear Fork Publishing in Texas. And it was such a wonderful experience. So like, I couldn't rave enough about it. I was told by another author that I had the opportunity of calling and just, kind of asking questions, picking her brain, getting tips from her. And she said, go to a writer's conference, put yourself out there. Query letters, book proposals, they are great, they are necessary, but they don't always get you seen, especially if you're not already an author, and especially if you're a first-time author with a really big book. And my book is a really big, long book. So, that's the longer your book is, the more expensive it's going to be in the market. The more expensive it's going to be to print, because paper costs money. And so it's really difficult for an aspiring author who's never before been published anywhere to, get noticed. And so the way that you get noticed is by going to a writer's conference and, putting yourself out there, making yourself friendly. If you're introverted, like I am, even though I do stuff on stage where I play a different character, it's different when it's you. Like, I had no character shield. This was all me. These books were and are my kind of like my babies. I've been with them for a long time. I had been trying last year to get them published for a long time. And so it was kind of nerve-wracking. But as I've learned in theater, you put your baggage down at the door before you enter in for theater rehearsals. You go and you put your best face on. You get the job done. You talk to people, even if you want to shell up and hide. You do the hard thing, and it just goes to show that doing the hard thing really can pay off. And I think last year when I got home and I did the WriterCon discussion video from last year, I think I kind of said the same thing, like go put yourself out there, go to a writers conference if you can, if you have the means to, even if you can only go to one once a year, which is about what I can do. I know it's expensive. Save up money for it. Start a budget and save up money to go. If you are really, especially if you are really wanting to get traditionally published, I just advise you as an aspiring author, whoever you are, if you are watching, if you have not been to WriterCon or to any writers conference and you want to get your book published, you are so determined, I really highly advise you to go. And so what I want to do is just share, and I'm going to try to make this as fast as I can, but I just want to share my experience from this year. This year at WriterCon was my second year. I stayed, instead the conference was not at the Skirvin, it was at the Waterford Renaissance Hotel, and it was beautiful and it was lovely as well. Their breakfast was absolutely amazing, but that's besides the point. The conference was wonderful. This time that I went, I did not pitch any books. I am currently publishing the 2 books that I was pitching. And while I have some other story ideas that I am working on and haven't really had a chance to brainstorm or fully finish all of the other story ideas that I do have, I'm not really at a place to pitch yet, pitch again. So this time I just went with the intention of just how much can I learn? How much can I absorb? How many people who were there last year were going to be there this year? And there were many, many, many. And it was wonderful to see old friends, to make new friends. I got the opportunity to talk to an author who, it was her first year this go around. And it was awesome to just be able to sit next to her and encourage her. And she's also a Christian author. She is trying to publish, I think, devotional type books as well, Bible study type books. And she also works at her church, as I work at my church. And so we just hit it off really, really well. We didn't get to see each other throughout the whole thing. But see, that's another wonderful thing about going to a writer's conference is if you're a writer or an editor or whatever, you meet like-minded people. You meet people who have a passion for the same thing that you have a passion for. And if anything, like, you're there, like, you're going to be encouraged. I mean, it's pretty much just a given that you're going to meet like-minded people who will encourage you, who want you to succeed, who want to come up behind you and propel you forward and lift you up. And I mean, I can't rave about it enough, apparently. So let me give you just a few things that I learned. One of the things that I had the opportunity to go to was an author Q&A. It had 3 authors who, it was just like this open panel where the audience had the opportunity to ask questions. One of the questions was, how do you know that writing is your calling? And I don't know if I'm going to pronounce her name entirely right, but the author, she's a new author, I believe, but also a best-selling author. Her name's Yasmin Angoe, A-N-G-O-E. I hope I am pronouncing that right. That is her name, and she was the one who responded to this question. How do you know writing is your calling? Well, she said something profound to me. You always circle back to it. There was another author who I think mentioned that, you know, you feel unsettled unless you're writing. Writing is something that helps you feel more settled. And those 2 things, you always circle back to it, and you do it because you essentially have to feel more settled. You've got something in you and you're unsettled unless you get it out on paper, like throwing it up on paper. And oh my goodness, yes, that's me. Throughout the course of my life, I have always circled back to writing. Lonely seasons, I have fallen into writing, poured into writing, because it's always been a solace for me. It's always helped me make sense of things going on internally and things going on externally around me. Writing's always pointed me to Jesus. It's one of the ways that I have an intimate relationship with the Lord, through prayer journaling, through writing poems, psalm-like poems and prayers to my Holy Father, to Jesus. And so it's a way that, yes, I do have this sense of peace when I sit down to write, and it's just me and the pen and the paper. In your case, it could be you and the coffee shop and the iPad or laptop or whatever you use to write. It doesn't matter. But the truth is, a writer should always circle back to writing, right? If that's who you are, you might do other things. There might be other seasons in your life where you're doing other things, but I've always found throughout the course of my life, somehow I've always circled back to writing. I act and I love the theater, but I circle back to writing. I work at the church and I love my job at the church, but I get this itch sometimes to just tune out the world sometimes and write. And it's like an itch that just has to be scratched sometimes. And it's a wonderful feeling knowing that, it's my calling. I do believe that the Lord placed writing on my heart in order to glorify Him. And I'm not saying that I have this divine, I don't go and pitch my books to other agents or publishers and say, the Lord told me to write this book because writing is my calling. You don't do that. But I know that it's my calling because it's gonna always be something that I circle back to. It's gonna always be something that puts my mind at ease amidst the storms of life and the trials that inevitably come, and sometimes the lonely feelings that I battle with and that you might battle with. It helps make sense of the world around me. Another panel that I got to go to the speaker was author Stephen James, and he writes, I think, kind of like thriller type mysteries. Any author that I mention, I will link below their website so that you can go and visit their website and see what they actually write. I've not read any of Stephen James's books, but I get the sense he's kind of like a Vince Flynn type author, if you know who that is. So anyway, I had the opportunity to go to his panel. He gave this keynote address called The Untouched Moment. And I actually have notes so that I don't just ramble throughout this whole thing. So I'm going to read to you the sense of what he was talking about, what spoke to me, how I received it, and I hope you enjoy. Writers are those looking for deeper meaning, deeper connection, those untouched moments. He talked about untouched moments. Author Stephen James had wonderful things to say about storytellers attaining those untouched moments. And it's true, right? Our stories are filled with fictitious characters. They're pieces of us, of who we are. Pieces of our subconscious, our experiences, our sorrows, our adventures, or desires for those adventures. We get to be storytellers, diving and bringing to the surface those untouched moments. A lot of times, those awestruck wonder moments come when you take time to think about something, like really think about it, a memory, a truth, whatever it is. If you're a writer, dwell on that. Even if it doesn't necessarily make sense, even if it's a jumbled mess in your head, dwell on it, pause, be still. Remember to marvel at the wonderful life you have been given. Like George Bailey at the end of my favorite Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life. Stop and remember. It's a wonderful life. What many things there are to learn and experience. What a beautiful thing it is to not simply survive from one day to the next, but live. And it just so happens that us storytellers need to live, at least sometimes, with our heads in the clouds, to help others marvel, to give others an escape, to bring laughter and to bring tears, to cause jaw-dropping surprises, to tell our story one word at a time. And so, yeah, that's kind of in my own words, the summarization of what I got from Stephen James's talk. His talk was absolutely incredible. He's a wonderful speaker. He was able to say things about writing that, you know, it's like you hear the same thing. You hear some of the same suggestions time and time again. You can read all of the writer's rule books, and what he was saying, you know, wasn't really any different, but just he was able to put into words those things, that advice in a more profound way. He was able to, in a sense, get past the structure and get right to the heart, pierce right to the heart. And it definitely pierced me to the heart, and definitely was like fuel for go home and write and you know, put forth the time, put forth the energy. You aren't always going to be inspired. Sometimes you're gonna have to force the inspiration to come by sitting down and writing, and that's how you ignite the inspiration, rather than you writing just when you feel inspired. We don't always feel inspired. I do not always sit down and write thinking, oh yay. Sometimes I'm thinking, great. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Anyway, 2 podcasts I would definitely suggest for y'all to listen to if you love writing would be William Bernhardt's Red Sneaker Writers podcast. I suggested that last year, and so I will re-suggest that this year. And also, Stephen James has a podcast called The Story Blender. On both podcasts, they interview other authors and possibly other editors and agents, and you know, they pick their brains, and we get to receive, when we listen to those podcasts for free, advice. You know, we get advice, we get writer's advice and writer's tips and fuel as well. Sometimes if you don't feel inspired, you can go listen to a podcast that other authors are speaking on, and you can start feeling excited through those. And so those are 2 really, really great ones. I have listened to both podcasts, Red Sneaker Writers and the Story Blender podcast, and I will also link those down below. The final thing that I will mention of what I learned at WriterCon was spoken through a class, which is, I think the class was like, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was, you know, building your characters in your fantasy world. And being a writer of fantasy, I went to it. The speaker, her name is Laurel Thomas. She is also a middle grade fantasy writer like I am, and we connected super well at this writers conference. She was there last year, and I can remember seeing her, but I never had the opportunity to really speak to her until this year. And she and I had an actual sit-down conversation where we were just marveling and getting excited about having Christian themes and having essentially the gospel message interwoven in our novels, and how it's so necessary, especially for young hearts. Young kids are so vulnerable. We live in an age where everything is so easily accessible. Every point of view, every worldview is so easily accessible online. And so you have these sweet and precious children who know so much more than I ever knew when I was a little girl. And of course I was sheltered, but I mean, it's hard to be sheltered this day and age. And so you have these kids who are pulled to and fro every which way, and they're confused, and they need the truth. And as a daughter of the King of all kings, how could I stay silent? As a writer, how could I stay silent when this world needs the truth, and the truth of God, the truth that Jesus Christ is Lord, is the way, the truth, and the life, and the only way, the truth, and the life. How could I stay silent when I know this, when I've experienced it, when I have tasted and seen that the Lord is good, when He has gifted me and given me opportunity to write books for His glory? How could I stay silent about interweaving His message in my books? Not in a preachy way, but in a, fantasy. It's something that kids still gravitate toward. It's something that doesn't really get old. It's an escape. It's an escape from reality. And yet also it teaches you about, other aspects of life. It takes other aspects of life, like the giants that we face in our lives, in adulthood, even as kids, hard, scary situations, and it puts a fantastical creature to it. It puts a dragon to it. It puts an actual giant like David and Goliath to it. And so you get to read with a sense of adventure, but you are also getting themes. You're getting some sort of message. You can learn as you read, just like I think that's what C.S. Lewis's books did. I think that's what Tolkien's books did. And so that's what I want to do. That's what Laurel Thomas wants to do. And she has a book that is not yet published, but I will have the opportunity to read and to also give a little book review as well to her. And once it gets published, I can definitely share more about the book. But I'll have the opportunity to read one of her books, and I'm so super excited to do that. So this class that she was teaching about diving into your characters, she talked about play with giving your characters universal lies. So what are some universal lies? Like fear, giving in to my fear will keep me from making mistakes. And that's just plumb not true. Another universal lie would be, it's all my fault. Everything is my fault, or it's all your fault. Everything is your fault, and you point that finger of blame. And I'm trying to think of more, but more kind of escapes me. But those are a few universal lies. And anytime, every person in this life has believed or fallen prey to one of those universal lies. For me, I know in my life, a lot of that is fear. And so I think maybe subconsciously in a way, even really consciously, when I wrote Evergreen and the Silver Tree, my middle grade Christian fantasy, Evergreen, my main character, definitely battles with fear. And she has to learn to, not give value to the fear, not give weight to her fear, but instead give value to the faith that she has in the Lord. I was thinking that thought the other day, that when we battle with fear, which is inevitable, we will have feelings of fear that creep in. We will have circumstances that make us fear and have those feelings, right? Well, if we start dwelling on the fear, if we start thinking about the worst case scenario, and we're ruminating through it in our heads and our minds, and it's stewing and it's brewing, and like we are living in that fear. We're giving weight to it. We're giving value to it. And well, what does weight do when it gets heavier and heavier and heavier? It crushes us. It starts to weigh us down. It starts to make us feel heavy. It starts to make us throw a pity party sometimes. Oh, woe is me. And Evergreen battles with this. She battles with this fear, just making her feel so heavy, making her feel like, how am I supposed to do what I have been sent into this enchanted realm to do? She's giving weight to that fear. Whereas once you start not giving weight to that fear, and instead you're giving weight and value to who the Lord is. He is strong. He is mighty. He knows who you are. He is the equipper and the provider. He is faithful. He will never leave your side. His promises are sure, and you're giving weight and you're giving value to the truth and to faith and to expectant hope, then I think of the song that goes, Christ the sure and steady anchor. Christ is your anchor. So think of like you're this ship and you're on this stormy sea and it's rattling you, and that's like the fear, right? And the outward circumstances are causing you to place your focus on the fear and on the storm. And then what you can do is you can remember, okay, Jesus is here. He is with me. Nothing takes him by surprise, right? And you're dwelling on him, and you're looking at him, and you're immersed in who he is and on his truth. And it's like he anchors you. He stills your soul. He firmly roots you to where you can't be uprooted. He's got you. If you belong to him, right, you are held safely in the palm of his hand. And so anyway, something that Evergreen has to learn is to give weight to faith over fear. And I wrote this down, and so instead of rambling, I'll read this part to you and then I'll finish. So Evergreen struggles with being controlled by fear, yet she has a desperate need to hunt for truth. That's one of her goals in the book, is she wants to know the truth of something that happened to her first grade classmates that she had no control over, and that was unexplainable. She wants to dig up the unexplainable. She didn't get answers. She wants to know what happened to my first grade class. And all these years later, that need, that desire to find the truth. Where's the truth? What is the truth? God, why did you let this happen? It propels her to search. I think of Nancy Drew, but I think of, what if Nancy Drew was actually played by her scared friend, Bess? Bess was one of her best friends in the book. She was always kind of the scaredy cat, and kind of the funny one. And in a sense, I kind of feel like Evergreen is almost like this Nancy Drew-like character, but more with the personality of Bess, except set in a completely and totally enchanted fantasy realm. When Evergreen does discover the truth she is looking for, she does find it, but it terrifies her. So over the course of the entire book, she must either learn to rise above her fear or be ensnared by deception's curse. I had the opportunity to share a bit about that in the class that I took with Laurel Thomas, and that's how we just became friends in that moment. We had that connection where we were both like, aha, we are like-minded in this and in our theme and in our wanting to spread truth into young hearts, young lives. So it was such a wonderful experience, and that's why I'm telling you this, because I want you to know you might not have the same exact story as I do, but if you go to a writer's conference and you're an aspiring author, you'll make friends. Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid, because eventually, on down the line, you're gonna come, you and another person are gonna have this aha moment where it's like, yes, we are on the same page. We agree. We write the same genre. We love the same themes, or whatever it is. Form those connections, because they're so wonderful. They're so precious. I would not trade it away for anything these past 2 times that I have gotten to go. And so, Lord willing, I'll get to go again next year. And as long as I can go to this writers conference, I want to have the opportunity to go. Maybe one day, shameless plug, I could teach a class, or I don't know. I love it so much. I love the camaraderie. I love the connection. I love having to actually apply, having faith over fear, and get past the fear of pitching, put yourself out there. And this go around, this time that I went, I had the opportunity to go with my boyfriend, and we had a really fun time. He was able to do his own thing during the day. We were able to go out to eat at night and go explore Bricktown, and so that was fun. So I had both the aspect of getting to go to WriterCon and then getting to hang out with my sweet Wesley after the day was done. And so it was just such a wonderful time. It was such a powerful learning experience in my life, and the Lord just keeps cultivating learning experiences in my life. I want to have the mentality that, there's always room for growth. Never be complacent. Never be satisfied to stay right where you are. Yes, you can be content in where the Lord has placed you. He's placed you in a particular season for a purpose, no matter if you don't necessarily want the season in which He's placed you in. But that's kind of a different topic for a different vlog or something, or blog post. But I think that there's a difference between being content in Christ and where He's placed you, and then being so satisfied that there's no room for improvement. In the writing world, I believe there's always room for improvement in life and in everything, in relationships, in everything. In your walk with the Lord, there's always room for improvement. So have a growth mindset. If you are an aspiring author, put yourself out there. Reach out to me, comment down below, ask me questions, and I might have an answer. Don't be afraid. Don't let fear keep you from growing, keep you from getting to where you want to be. You're going to fail. We all are going to fail at some point, but we have the choice, especially as children of God, to get back up again, to do the next right thing, to give value to your faith in God and who Christ is, rather than giving weight to your fears. So I hope that's of encouragement to you. I hope that you will get yourself to a writers conference, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.
So I'm frustrated a little bit by that. We go off to the right. Now there are these animatronic dinosaurs.
And it's worth fighting for. There's something good in this room, and it's worth fighting for. Your stories are worth fighting for.
Tegan, what are you doing? Oh.